Mike, lead us off here. What do you think about this tournament so far? Because I have been thoroughly underwhelmed up until about 30 minutes ago.
Listen, okay, so the one you're talking, Colorado State,
Yes.
Maryland was awesome.
Yes.
That finish was fantastic.
Fair.
I understand where you're coming from insofar as you want the buzzer beaters, you want the final minute drama, fine.
Can we get some of it?
And listen, I'm not opposed to it. I love it too.
I'm sure you do.
I'm just saying that that's not the only time of the game where the game can be fun. The Texas A&M Michigan game yesterday was a 12-point final score. That was an entertaining game to watch back and forth where Texas A&M raced out to, and at one point in the second half had a 10-point lead, and then Michigan flipped the script on them. That second half was fun to watch. Okay, the final minute wasn't fun to watch, but the game was fun. If you're only in it for the final 90 seconds of the game, then okay, yes, this tournament has been underwhelming so far, but there still has been fun stuff to watch this weekend.
All right, Mac, what do you think? Get in here.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to push back a little bit on this one. I don't think the action in the first half before the second media timeout really qualifies as memorable action in any of these games. Like CBS, when the CBS sports crews are cutting up the highlights, they're like, give me the good highlights from Ole Miss and Valparaiso in the first half of that game. What about the Bryce Drew shot? We don't want
I
that
said
one.
second half with Texas A&M and Michigan.
There has been nothing about this tournament that has been memorable other than a clear walk on the part of Maryland on the game-winning
That
shot.
is not a walk. That's a gather step. Come on.
Okay.
Dude, I mean, he took 3 of the biggest steps. Even NBA referees.
He took large steps. He's a large human.
I think I would have had to call that one. The reason why this tournament is what it is not the last weekend. It's always the first 2 or 3 days of the tournament where you can see genuine chaos. That's what sets it apart from everything else. And we haven't seen any of that. And that's happened sometimes in a tournament. Sometimes you just don't get those games. And sometimes you get a whole bunch. And we haven't had any. And I think if you look at the bracket right now, it's basically Target versus Walmart versus Goldman Sachs versus Ford versus
Oh my
Chevy.
God.
That's all of the big brands that have advanced. And I think in this NIL transfer portal world, we may be seeing a lot more of that.
So that kind of gets
I just
my,
don't think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that kind of gets to my follow-up question, because Mike and I have gone back and forth on Texas getting into the tournament and 14 SEC teams getting in. My thought on Texas getting in, it's not so much whether they deserve to get in based off of their results against some of the best teams in the nation. My point is you had your chance. If your conference is that deep, you had your chance to make up ground. There should not be 14 teams from one specific conference that can dilute the field that much. So I think a lot of people look at the results of this tournament and believe, to some degree, that we're headed for a 64-team tournament with 4 major conferences and like a smattering of at-large bids to where 14 teams from a conference will be the regular. Mac, do you see any validity to that, or is this just kind of are we ever going to see a team or a state where Wichita State, VCU, these teams will not be part of the tournament?
No, that I don't think, because I think they're ultimately going to go expand to 78 teams. I think that's going to happen. They're going to. Well, it doesn't matter whether or not it should happen. It's going to happen. So I think, in by doing that, it's going to guarantee that a conference as big as the SEC, which is up to 20 teams now, so they're going to get in 14 teams, and the Big Ten, which has like 180 teams.
I think Big Ten's got 18 now. SEC's got 16.
Big Ten, 18.
So they're going to get in. So they're going to get in. Well, probably about 2/3 of their league is going to qualify, because the way their schedules are stacked up is they just play each other, and by playing each other, their RPI ratings go up.
Right.
And then the NCAA wants to accommodate all of those one-bid leagues, like the Missouri Valley or any number of other ones, and they're just going to get one team in, not 2, one team in. They're going to get their brains kicked in, and every now and then they might pull one out. But what we're really seeing, and we saw this as a result of the NCAA tournament 2 years ago that had all those Cinderellas, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, UConn, and I'm missing the other one, and nobody watched. It was record low TV ratings. CBS, the NCAA, nobody wants to see that again. Nobody. So I think what we're going to see now is to make sure that ultimately, while there may be some cute little upsets early in the first week, there will be no chance of them by the third week.
Interesting. I'm not sure. In other words, I understand the viewership part of it. I do. I just always battle back against that, especially in baseball with smaller markets or the NFL with smaller markets, like the Jaguars winning if they ever get to the Super Bowl. But in those circumstances, like you've got to at least give those teams a shot to get in. I can understand the viewership. Like the MLB always wants Dodgers, Yankees. But there's a reason people watch is for the opportunity, at least building up to see other teams in that spot.
I don't disagree with you. And I've had discussions with college coaches about this very premise. And their argument is, you're right, but and I still think, look, if you go back and look at the TV ratings when Butler played Duke, played Duke in the national championship, the ratings were through the roof. And I think it was two things. It was David versus Goliath, and the fact that the Goliath was Duke. Goliath, that wasn't just Kansas State or some other Power 4 school. It was Duke. It was the bluest of blue bloods in that game. So that was their kind of counter to that one. I think what we've seen is that the consolidation of wealth, of power, both in football and men's basketball, continues unabated. And even though they may expand this tournament to 78 games, which I think they will do, like I said before, it's just going to make it that much harder. They're going to say, well, you got a chance. You're in it. You're on the field. You got a chance. Yeah, okay. It's just going to be a hell of a lot more harder.
I think if indeed the 78-team tournament happens, which again, to your point, that's been the conjecture now for a couple of years, it's been rolling in that direction, you're going to see, again, 14 SEC teams, 14 of 16 this year, by the way. They only have 16 teams. 14 of them got in.
How do you feel being LSU, by the way? Yeah, LSU and South Carolina.
LSU and South Carolina, the only two that didn't get in. And what's crazy to me is the only team that's actually worth having a conversation about whether they belonged in or not is Texas. The other 13 were comfortably in the field.
But this is why when I was arguing with them about that, it's not about the individual teams and their records. It's about the fact that there's 14 from one conference.
But I don't think that the committee looks at it that way. And
I know they don't. That's the problem. That's why I'm saying.
They shouldn't, though. It shouldn't be about what conference patch is on your jersey. It should be about it should be a blind resume without a team name atop the page.
You can't take the resume away from the conference, though, because it's baked into
They're trying to
who
take
they
the
play.
resume away from the team, let alone the conference.
You're seeing a bit of what we got into. Either way, we got to get into it. We're talking about Cinderellas coming up.
We're going to blow through till midnight.
Top 5 Cinderellas coming up next. Stay with us.